everybody counted us out. Y'all didn't believe in us. A whole bunch of people thought we weren't gonna make it, right? We went 6-4. Oh, that's okay. They got a winning record, but they're not gonna go to the playoffs. Remember that? And what we do? We come out and we do what we do. We play Seahawks football. We got an opportunity to do what we love, and we'll see you on the Super Bowl.
Imagine being expected to be drafted early in the 4th round, but to then only have teams call out the names of other players round by round. While media and fans all turn their attention towards Roger Goodell as he calls out each draft selection, it largely goes unnoticed about all the other players who would not have their names called out and go undrafted. While many of these undrafted free agents were simply overlooked, throughout the years there have been many who would go on to have productive careers in the league, but few would have as much success as the Seahawks' diminutive receiver. In this video, we're going to take a look at the life and career of Doug Baldwin and how he rose through the ranks in Seattle to ultimately become one of the most storied wide receivers in franchise history.
Run it back.
Guys, the NFL season is officially here. It's been almost 7 months since the Super Bowl, but the time has come as we've got a jam-packed schedule this coming weekend. And what better way to kickstart the 2022 NFL season with this amazing deal from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. For new customers to DraftKings, you bet $5 on any NFL wager and you'll instantly receive $200 in free bets. Like, what more could you ask for? Watching football is so much more fun when you actually have skin in the game. DraftKings has been around for a while, so you know your funds are safe and the withdrawal process is very convenient. They offer same game parlays, meaning you could bet the spread and over-under on the same game for a chance at bigger winnings. And for those of you in a state where sports betting isn't yet available, you can still head over to DraftKings and check out their daily fantasy where there are so many different ways you could win money. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. New customers use promo code CLASHER and receive $200 in free bets instantly when placing a $5 wager. That's promo code CLASHER only at DraftKings Sportsbook. And lastly, shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring this video. Born in Gulf Breeze, Florida, Doug Baldwin played youth football in Pensacola, Florida with former Pro Bowl running back Alfred Morris. He would then go on to play at Gulf Breeze High School and as a senior recorded 42 receptions for 682 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now after finishing high school, at this point Doug was 5'10 and a 2-star receiver, and while applying for colleges there weren't many schools knocking on his door. Actually, the Stanford Cardinals were the only Division I football program to recruit Doug. During the recruiting period, this is when the receiver first met Richard Sherman during a visit to Stanford. At the time, Richard was a Stanford wide receiver before switching to cornerback for his last 2 seasons. The pair would eventually form a bond that would continue after college and later into the NFL. While accepting to play collegiate football at Stanford from 2007 to 2010, Baldwin would serve as a wide receiver and a kick returner under head coach Jim Harbaugh. At the bottom of the pecking order, his first couple years were rather average in terms of production. In fact, he almost quit Stanford while in his sophomore season. Harbaugh had only taken over the reins after Walt Harris, who initially recruited Doug, had been fired 2 days after the 2006 season. And the new Stanford coach didn't have the greatest relationship with Baldwin because Doug had a fiery temper and a chip on his shoulder. And with the limited action he saw his way in the receiving corps behind fellow Stanford teammates, clashes between the head coach and the receiver were inevitable. This ultimately led Jim to demote Doug to the scout team, which infuriated him even further to the point where he filled out his NCAA paperwork to leave Stanford and to get as far away as possible from Harbaugh while still playing college football. However, it would take some motherly advice to set our son straight and forbid him from leaving Stanford, as he was only a year away from getting a degree from a prestigious college. After returning, Baldwin would only appear in 7 games in his junior season, but in his senior campaign, he would go on to show some real promise, leading the team with 850 receiving yards off of 58 receptions and 9 touchdowns. That year, the Cardinals went 12-1, and Baldwin would enter the NFL draft, leaving Stanford with a degree in science and technology in society. He was expecting himself to be drafted somewhere in the 4th round, but after hearing the final selection pass without his name, he was angry. And as Doug Baldwin would allude to in an interview, he simply stated that this moment led to a devastating time in his life, saying, "I didn't know what was going to happen and we were in a lockout year. So after the draft was over, none of the teams could talk to us." Now, if missing out on having your name called out on national television isn't bad enough, think about waiting another 3 months to put pen to paper on signing with a team. And this is actually what happened to Doug Baldwin in 2011 when the labor dispute disrupted the usual order of business. Sure, any other year, he could have just signed minutes later after the conclusion of the draft, but in 2011, Baldwin signed just days before the start of training camp. Now think about all the anxiety and stress one would go through for 3 months, wondering if he would get signed as an undrafted free agent, or alternatively, if you didn't get signed, what were you gonna do? As a football player, you spend your entire childhood playing the game you love with the hopes of making it to the NFL, but when that call doesn't come through, what is your backup plan? What are you gonna do for work, for money? Doug would further go on to say, "I'm sitting here undrafted, no interest, no teams had called me because they couldn't, and I'm about to graduate and I don't have a job. So I was worried, man. I started applying to different jobs in the area. My best friend at Stanford helped me get an interview with Dropbox at the time. I was searching. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was lost." You can clearly hear from Doug's words that this was a very stressful period for him. However, in the end, the Seattle Seahawks' new coaching and GM tandem of Pete Carroll and John Schneider took a flyer on Baldwin, signing him to a 3-year contract worth $1.4 million. And this is where the receiver would be reunited with his former college teammate Richard Sherman, who was drafted by the Seahawks in the 5th round of the same year. In his rookie campaign in 2011, Doug would go on to catch his first NFL touchdown from a 55-yard pass from quarterback Tavares Jackson. He finished his first season 4th in receiving yards among rookie receivers, along with 55 receptions and 4 touchdowns. After a solid rookie year, the second year would see Doug take a step back in terms of production due to injuries and more reliance on a run-heavy style of offense under Pete Carroll. In 2013, the 13-3 Seahawks under second-year QB Russell Wilson would make a deep run into the playoffs after defeating the New Orleans Saints in the divisional round to book a championship matchup against one of their biggest rivals, the San Francisco 49ers. Against San Fran, Baldwin would go on to record 6 receptions for 106 yards in a 23-17 Seahawks win. During the playoffs, Doug's shares of targets were still rather limited due to being the 3rd choice wide receiver on the depth chart behind Sidney Rice and Golden Tate. However, due to injuries to both receivers leading up to Super Bowl 48, the 5'10" receiver would be placed front and center in Seattle's receiving attack against Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. Leading up to the big game, there was a lot of criticism from analysts questioning the quality of the Seahawks receivers, essentially calling them pedestrian. And after Seattle's resounding 43-8 Super Bowl win, where Baldwin recorded 5 catches for 66 yards and a score, he would unleash a public tirade responding to all his critics and most notably Chris Carter. Here's a clip of that anger I alluded to earlier in the video, something he would carry on all the way from his time in Stanford to the NFL.
If they would do their jobs, they would see that we throw the ball second fewest in the league. But if they also did their jobs further, they would see that we are the most efficient receiving corps in the NFL.
From undrafted rookie free agent signing with this team to Super Bowl champion.
My man that said that we were appetizers, right? He told me to Google him, and I did that. I saw that he was a Hall of Famer, which, like I said, I respect what he did on the football field, but I also saw two conference championships appearances, none of which he won, and I didn't see any Super Bowl appearances. All that stuff came to me in Google, and I would love for him to come to me, and I'd love to show him the Super Bowl. Like I said, I can't say any names. I would love to show him the Super Bowl ring. And if he doesn't want to come and see it personally, tell him he can Google it.
I'll tell you what, you can always bring it on the set.
In the following 2014 season, with the departure of Rice and Tate, Doug would become the primary receiving threat in Seattle and would be rewarded with a new 2-year, $13 million contract. The receiver responded in the regular season, amassing 66 receptions for 825 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. While these numbers don't seem very productive from a number 1 receiver, Seattle at the time were a team that ran the ball the most through Marshawn Lynch, and this obviously casted more doubts into Baldwin's production on the team to the point where he would be called out once again, and this time from NFL legend Deion Sanders. As the Seahawks faced the Green Bay Packers in the 2014 NFC Championship game, Sanders stated that the Seahawks receiving corps were just aight. And after the Seahawks come from behind win in one of the best championship games in recent years, one that included an onside kick, followed by a clutch catch from Baldwin and a walk-off overtime 35-yard TD catch from Jermaine Kearse, Doug Baldwin would unleash another rant following the game on Deion Sanders.
What about the way you guys overcame?
I don't know. That's just what pedestrian, average, mediocre receivers do. What's up? My man Deion Sanders, we all right, huh? We all right? Yeah, we all right. We gonna go into the Super Bowl again, being all right.
I like that. You listening, baby? You all right?
In their second of back-to-back Super Bowl runs, the Seattle Seahawks would eventually lose to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots in a close encounter that came down to a game-ending interception from Malcolm Butler. Doug was held in check for much of the match by Darrelle Revis, registering only a mere one reception for 3 yards and a touchdown. The following 2015 season was a year in which Doug Baldwin would explode offensively in production. With more offensive weapons on the attack through the acquisition of tight end Jimmy Graham and the drafting of speedy wideout Tyler Lockett, this gave Doug a chance to really shine offensively. And in the 2015 season, Baldwin would go on to have one of the most productive runs ever by a wide receiver. During a 5-game stretch from weeks 11 to 15, the 5'10 receiver recorded 29 receptions for 484 receiving yards and an incredible 11 touchdowns. That season, Baldwin led all NFL wide receivers in touchdowns with 14. In the following offseason, the receiver would be rewarded with a 4-year extension worth $46 million, making him the 6th highest paid receiver in the league. In 2016, Doug Baldwin would repay the faith in the Seahawks management, registering a career-high 94 receptions and 1,128 receiving yards along with 7 touchdowns. While his last 2 seasons in Seattle would see the receiver show solid production, he was mostly playing injured, and this obviously got worse and worse as in 2019, Doug failed a physical and was subsequently released by the team. Days later, the Florida native would announce his retirement via Twitter. However, the Seahawks organization did right by their man, as by cutting him, Doug didn't owe the team anything. He was simply free and clear. All in all, as an undrafted free agent, Doug Baldwin, by my estimation, had a wonderful career that no one would have expected. Standing 5'10" and 190 pounds, this undersized receiver simply proved all his doubters wrong, and it's easy to understand why he played with all that anger and emotion. With 2 Pro Bowl selections, 49 career touchdowns, and a Super Bowl ring, the story of Doug Baldwin is one that will forever live in Seahawks lore.